Hello, I'm Charles Clausen, your host of the AMPx Podcast, a show where we engage in conversations with entrepreneurs and innovators whose wild ideas and exponential thinking are reshaping the universe where we live, play, and work. I believe these powerful conversations will inspire you to pursue your dreams. Good morning and welcome to the AMPx Podcast. Today we're very excited to have Dimy Doresca as a special guest. Dimy is with the University of Iowa. He is the director of the Institute for International Business, associate professor of practice for international business and entrepreneurship, and a justice fellow in international development and processes at the university. Dimy has a master's in foreign service from Georgetown University, grew up in Haiti, and has a very exciting story to share with us today. Dimy, I'd like to start out with, in your childhood, something that you think was kind of a defining moment that kind of led you to where you are today and created your passion to do service for the world and helping entrepreneurs in Sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you, Charles, for having me on your podcast. It's such a pleasure to be part of this great initiative. So, as you mentioned, I was born and raised in Haiti, and I know whenever people hear about Haiti, what they see. Political tensions, political strives, and poverty. There are other things in Haiti. There are good people in Haiti, educated, smart people in the country, people that are trying to make a difference, people that are trying to make this world a better place. And I was born by hardworking parents. My dad was a self-employed guy selling, lottery for the states and getting a percentage on what he was selling. And then my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So we were a big family of 9, and I was the middle child. And being a middle child, you kind of like learn a lot. You kind of feel that you have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of things that basically fall on your back, and you are striving for success. You don't want to fail. You don't want to make mistake. So with my hardworking parents and my dad, getting up every morning at 5 and working the whole day, bringing food, putting food to the table, I learned right from a young age that you've got to work hard. You've got to earn everything that you need. You've got to fight for everything that you want to have in life. At the same time, you also need to try to make a difference. You need to try to make your community. And when I talk about your community, I'm not only talking about where you live. I consider the world as a community. Right at a young age, I consider the world as a community. Before the age of the internet, I was, involved in world youth movement. Back, growing up as a young child, as a young, teenager back in the 80s, the mid 80s, as a teenager, I was part of the World Youth Group, fighting for the less of these, doing social justice movements, talking, giving a voice to those that don't have voice. And I remember I used to read a lot of stories about Oscar Arnulfo Romero in El Salvador, who basically was a priest of the liberation theology, which talks about social justice, how do you help this world become a better place for us all? At that time, there was no social media. There was no internet. Just reading from paper, reading books, and making my voice heard among other youth in my community in Lekai, Haiti, to really make this world, as I call this community, when I call community, I'm talking about the world, a better place for us all.
So Dimy, this is interesting. You grew up in an impoverished country where there was a lot of injustice, and curious how you felt and how your family and siblings felt, because you were obviously giving back and doing a lot and helping people not only in Haiti, but outside of Haiti. So how did it feel being a 14-year-old and, getting engaged and serving others? That's not something that every 14-year-old does. A lot of them are scrapping and fighting on the streets, trying to get ahead one way or the other. So
no, it's interesting you mentioned that. As I said, I was 14, 15-year-old when I got involved in the youth group called Youth for the World. And what we really noticed, us members of that group, myself, I was privileged, I could say, because I went to a Catholic, parochial school, and which was the top school in my town. But when I looked around me, I could see a lot of, kids of my age or younger kids that were not going to school and that didn't have that level of privilege that I had, So that's when we decided to, be part of a movement, Youth for the World, that really was promoting the liberation theology, from, that Oscar Alonso Romero in El Salvador was promoting back then in mid-'80s. So we decided to really start, a school, a literacy school in the afternoon, in the evening, that would welcome those kids, to, teach them how to read, to teach them basic maths, to teach them some values, and to really, quite frankly, provide them a space where they can evade, where they can escape, a safe zone where they can feel like they are a human being. Because as you might know, child labor, in Haiti is still very prevalent, and a lot of those kids, they become domesticated kids working for people, cooking for them, go fetch water for them, go to the grocery stores or public market and bring foods, or take a younger kids to school, et cetera, clean the house, et cetera. A lot of those kids, that's what they were doing the whole day. So in the evening, when they find this 2 to 3 hours where they can escape, where they can, be away from the servitude life that they have where they live, they feel happy to do that. And these are the type of things that I was doing with some of my peers to make a difference. We didn't have the money to buy foods, to feed those people, to provide them, to send them to other schools. We didn't have the power to do that. But where we could help to make our world, our community, as I said earlier, a better place, we tried to do our best.
Well, you're still doing that today, Dimy, with your work at the International Institute at the university. You've been working with entrepreneurs in Sub-Saharan Africa for over 7 years. And why don't you tell us kind of what your big dream is, what your vision is for Sub-Saharan Africa, and how you serve entrepreneurs to teach them how to be successful and to grow viable businesses in a continent that is filled with rich resources. I think in the next 30 years, Africa is going to be a huge business development opportunity for the people of Africa, as well as international companies. The problem is there's so much corruption there's so many influences that it's not always an easy ecosystem for these entrepreneurs to get up and going, but you're doing amazing work. So tell us about the dream and the vision and where you see it going.
Definitely. And there's a lot to unpack in these questions. And so, as you mentioned, for 7 years, I've been leading the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program at the University of Iowa, College of Business, TP College of Business. And the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program is the U.S. State Department flagship program for the young African leaders in Sub-Saharan Africa. And the program is administered by IREX, which is a big education research institute based in Washington, D.C. And the fund for the program comes from the U.S. State Department, the U.S. government. The way the program works, every year, the U.S. government send the U.S. embassies across Sub-Saharan Africa send call for applications to recruit young, dynamic leaders between the age of 21 to 35 in Sub-Saharan Africa. They usually receive over 3,500 applications from all the countries in Sub-Saharan Africa. And out of that, they select about 700. So it's really the cream of the cream, la crème de la crème, as I usually say, that got to be selected to come for this program. And then at the University of Iowa, we received 25 of them. Since 2016, we've been implementing this program at the University of Iowa. We receive a group in leadership in business, and they usually are entrepreneurs that either have started their businesses or they have well-advanced business ideas that they want to vet through the program. They spend 6 weeks with us, and they would go through our rigorous venture school programs, which help them with their business go through the startup process, of how to use the business model canvas, how to do customer discovery, how to de-risk their businesses, talking to with the help of mentors, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the end, they learn how to pitch their ideas to investors so they can raise funds for their business. At the end of the program, and when they are in Iowa, they also meet a lot of business leaders. They get to interact with people like yourself, and that also help them continue de-risking their business ideas, provide them really constructive feedbacks on how to be successful with their business. And after the 6 weeks, at the end of the program, they go home. And when they go home, they are fired up. They are people that they become people that want to challenge the status quo. They are questioning everything in the business settings, in the government settings in their country. They are the type of people that want to get rid of corruptions, because corruptions has become an impediment to their success as well. They want to use modern, clean business practices to be successful. At the same time, they want to impact the lives of their people. They want to impact their community. When I say their community, they want to come up with something that can have global success. Whenever I talk about community, as you know, I'm talking about the world. They want to come, right. They want to come with something that will have global success, that will impact Sub-Saharan Africa and the world. Almost all of them. That's the way they think. They are a big thinker. And so we continue supporting them. Myself, I travel frequently to Sub-Saharan Africa, continue working side by side with them to see how I can help them accomplish their dream, how I can help them live their dreams, how I can help them come up with, the bold solutions to the problems, the challenges that they are facing. And as you mentioned, Africa is going to become in the next few years. I mean, you're talking about 30 years. It's not going even to take 30 years for, what we used to hear about the Asian tigers back in the late 80s, 90s, mid 90s, late 80s to mid 90s. We're going to hear about those tigers in Africa very soon. And there will be more tigers on the continent of Africa than there were Asian tigers. I can tell you that. You're looking at countries like Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, okay, just to name these few, that have several companies that have the capacity to become unicorns on the continent of Africa, that have the capacity to become, really big companies that will impact what's going on right now in the world. And some of those companies, I can tell you, they are companies that were started by Mandela Washington Fellows. I am very optimistic with where the continent of Africa is going. And I am very optimistic in the way that the Mandela Washington Fellows are really forging the trajectory of business on the continent, playing a strong role in getting rid of corruptions, in putting good governance in businesses. This is really what I see. And I'm so honored to be part of this movement that these Mandela Washington Fellows are really taking on, and this is fun. And as I'm telling you, it's not gonna be 30 years. It's gonna be a lot sooner.
That's fantastic. For our audience, I've got goosebumps listening to Dimy. I've had the honor of working with Dimy and his team over the last 5 or 6 years, coaching some of the Mandela Fellows, following up. Dr. Lucy is doing amazing things with improving the quality of healthcare. And so many of these fellows, they're serving, they've got great ideas, and they're really trying to help others in need. They're trying to create jobs. They're trying to create sustainability. They're trying to create green farming practices. I mean, they're really working hard and really innovating. How do you see some of the emerging technology trends with things like cell phones and 5G and Starlink, where sometime in the near future, there'll be 6-7 billion people with cell phones that are more powerful than computers were 10 years ago, and sensors and all of these new emerging technologies that can drive out 10x the cost? How does that enable these young entrepreneurs and some of their businesses to really develop, scale, and grow fast?
It's a game changer, Charles. In fact, I would say 15, 20 years ago, getting a landline at your home in Africa, in many of the countries that I work with in Africa, in Sub-Saharan Africa, was just a major, major issue. You would submit your application. It would take years and years. You followed up. Sometimes you would bribe, the telecom company officials, and your bribe wouldn't even get you anywhere to get a landline in places, even in the cities, let alone in remote areas. I mean, that was non-existent in remote areas. The cities, I'm telling you, almost impossible. And now, when the cell phone arrived, and people started getting cell phone. Farmers in rural Kenya would be having cell phone where they can get in real time quotes on their crops to know when, to increase productions, when to decrease productions, when they can get in real time the weather on their phone, when they can get in real time news about their kids that go to school in the cities. And more recently, in the last 10 years or so, sending money using technology. M-Pesa revolutionized in Kenya. M-Pesa, which is the mobile payment system, revolutionized the way financial transactions are being conducted.
Is that like a blockchain Kenya. Or it's a crypto?
It's not a crypto. No, it's not even crypto. It's when M-Pesa started, it was just a simple mobile phone, simple, not smartphone, those simple, mobile phone that you send a GSM, you send a message to your parents living in remote area. You said, I need, 200 shillings, the Kenyan currency. And then your parents send a code message to your phone that you receive the money, and you can use, you don't even need to go to the bank or to a post to get the cash. You can use that simple message. You go to the grocery store. If your parents send you 200 shillings and you buy for 50 shillings, you send a message to that grocery store mobile phone, you pay them 50 shillings. That's it. And then when smartphone arrived, then, Safaricom, which is the promoter of M-Pesa, created the app so that you can use, so you can use your smartphone to also do the transaction. But the majority of people in Kenya using mobile payment, they are not using a cell phone. They're not using a smartphone. They're using a simple cell phone, no app, nothing to conduct business.
Well, to help put things in perspective, what's the average annual income in Kenya?
Approximately, you would probably, I don't quote me on that. The average would probably in the $300, $400, I don't have the exact data. And when you go, to more remote area, there are people that are living, below what the UN call $1.50 or $2 a day, which is really what you call the extreme poverty. Yeah.
So it's, when you keep that in mind and think about these entrepreneurs that are trying to change the quality of healthcare and bring higher quality healthcare and higher quality delivery systems, many of the rural ag tech companies I've talked to, the average farmer has 2 hectares of land, and they'll have tomatoes or peppers or other crops, and they all come to maturity at the same instant in a country. Then you've got these big conglomerates, if you will, local barons that almost pay them nothing for their crops. So, when you're talking to these entrepreneurs about how you build local processing capability, where you can take the tomatoes and make them into tomato sauces or tomato paste, where you can actually add value. They're doing a lot of things, but they're starting with very, very low incomes and compared to the US, and yet they're full of energy, they're full of optimism, they're working hard, and their world is totally different.
It is totally different. And then to come back on the technology questions that you asked me. So now, when you look at farming, there has been some improvement. And I'm going to give you an example in aquaculture in Kenya. There is this company started by a Mandela Washington Fellow called AMPx, and in the lake region in Kenya, around Lake Victoria in Kisumu. So he started this agri-tech company, AMPx, which provides an IoT technology that help farmers in fish farming control the temperature of the water, know when to feed the fish, know the type of feeds to buy, know the exact time to switch from the feeds for babies to feeds for older fish, etc., etc. And that sensor is put in the water and connect directly to an app, to their smartphone, 24/7, that can tell them when the fish, when one fish or two fish is in distress, so they can go exactly and find out what's going on in the water, if they need to change the water, if they need to do anything. So this is revolutionizing aquaculture in Kenya. And then using that same app, the farmer can keep track of its inventory for feed and can order directly using the app, can order feed directly from AMPx, pay using the mobile payment system that I just told you about, M-Pesa, and then ensure delivery of the feed to their farm. So, and this method is growing right now in the lake region in Kenya, and it's going to scale to other lake regions in Tanzania, in Uganda, etc., etc. And wherever you're talking about the blue economy, lake regions, ocean regions, the same process can be used. When I tell you about, unicorn, big ideas that can revolutionize Sub-Saharan Africa and the world, that's one example of it.
So technology is already solidly rooted in the process.
Exactly. Technology is solidly rooted in the process. So basically, what farmers now they are trying to do, they don't want to rely on governments to bring solutions to them. This Mandela Washington Fellow that I'm telling you about, he is a fish farmer. He called himself a fish farmer in the aquaculture in Kenya. And he's using the skills. He's using the training that he got from us here at the University of Iowa when he was a Mandela Fellow to challenge himself, to bring solutions to the people, to the challenges of the people in his community. And the solution not only is going to solve the problem in his region, but it's going to solve the problem in everywhere in Sub-Saharan Africa that has a lake region that has a blue economy.
So how does he get his product to market? How does he use technology? I'm assuming most of the fish goes locally to local communities in bigger cities and restaurants and grocery stores and whatnot.
Well, the way he does it, and it's not only he's providing as an IoT solutions to the farmers so they can do better fish farming, so they can have better yield. He's also providing them a marketplace. He's off taking their fish from them, have a bulking station, and then he's also having fish outlets where he's selling those fish. He's really getting those fish from the farmers and offering them a marketplace, a place to sell their fish.
So he's infrastructure. He's got the tools to help fish farmers raise the fish, know how the fish are doing, know where they are in their life cycle,
Yes.
know when to change the feed, know when the water temperature is getting too hot.
Everything.
Then he's helping get those products to market. So he's got a whole infrastructure for
basically
fish protein to get it to market and to develop the whole community of
you are
ecosystem.
saying, you are using the right word, the protein. Basically, AquaResh has the potential to help solve the protein issues in Kenya and Sub-Saharan Africa, because this IoT solution, this marketplace that he's offering, is revolutionizing aquaculture in Africa. And through the entire process of the value chain, by the way, because he's also partnering with some local government entity to get fingerlings, really kind of like a small, fish to grow fingerlings that he can provide to the farmers with the IoT, with that sensor in the water, control the water temperature, help them get better yield on their fish, provide them feed, okay? And then from there, get those fish from them, offtake, bulk them, put them to the market. It's the whole process of the value chain using technology.
I mean, this is a beautiful thing, Dimy. And if you think about it, the simple story is there's small entrepreneurs and business owners with ideas. And the Mandela Fellows, in collaboration with the International Institute at the University of Iowa, is taking these budding entrepreneurs and business people. You're bringing them to Iowa for 4 or 6 weeks. You're putting them through venture school. They're defining a business plan. They're doing financial projections. They're meeting mentors and coaches. They're pitching their ideas. You're teaching them all these basic skills. And then you continue to support them. But this is really a beautiful thing, because what you and your team are really doing, you're a guide. You're a guide that teaches them how to navigate the complexities of doing business in a poorer country where there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of barriers. So how to overcome these barriers and how to succeed despite all the challenges that they face. So besides the corruption and the lack of government support, what are some of the biggest challenges that these entrepreneurs have that they look to you for and need help with?
Number one is fundraising, Charles. And it's the investors of today, the private equity firms, the venture capital folks, they don't believe in these entrepreneurs. They don't think that they bring value to the table. They think they are too risky. And they think that they do not have ideas that can grow, that can scale, which is not true. These entrepreneurs are not micro enterprise. So basically, they do not have access to, because what they are really looking for to scale, there are people that are looking for $50,000, $300,000, $500,000. Some of them million, okay? Mm-hmm. But most of them looking for $50,000, $100,000 to $300,000 to scale. Basically too big for microfinance, but too small for private equity firm, for venture capital, etc. There's those type of funders.
Does Africa have an angel network, or is there angels internationally that would do a $50,000, $100,000 investment?
Some countries would have angels, like Nigeria would be the biggest one. Kenya has some, but not a lot. The I would say the ecosystem, the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Sub-Saharan Africa is still at its infancy. Okay. So the angels, people with deep pocket that have a lot of money that could be the angels, they still don't believe in the young entrepreneurs. They still don't believe in them. So the ecosystem is not matured yet. I think there is a lot of work that remains to be done to create a strong entrepreneurship ecosystem like what we have here in the state of Iowa or in other parts of the US.
So how do we fix that? How do we provide access to entrepreneurs that need $50,000 to $500,000?
Well, what we've started seeing right now is the rise of impact funds, impact investors that are looking at Africa. And these impact investors are administered, or they've been created by retired executives in the US who have worked in Africa, who understand the reality on the ground. They've spent several years either as business development for major companies in the US, traveling throughout the continent, or they've had expatriate assignments in Africa. So they understand the continent. They see the same thing that I see in Africa. So they decided to create impact funds. You know, some of those funds are to the tunes of 10 million, 20 million, 40 million, etc. And then they've decided to invest in Africa. There are a few of those impact funds, and I've started to get to know some of them. Okay. And they have their criteria. Some of them would do loans. Some of them would do equity investments, and they accompany the entrepreneurs, providing, advice, strategy, growth strategy for certain number of years, et cetera, et cetera. They're not in it to really, kind of like, we want you to grow fast and then we want to exit. They're not in it for that. They want to accompany those entrepreneurs and help them grow. So I think that's the way this is going to go. I want to encourage more of those impact funds here in the United States. I want to meet with, deep pocket individuals that are interested in understanding the reality in Africa, so we can create more of those impact funds that will look at opportunities in Africa. Because as you know, I have a pool of 149 entrepreneurs that have project ready, that would be interested in engaging conversations with investors. They're not looking for grants. They're looking for investments. They're looking for loans because they know they can get things done.
So you've been doing this for 7 years, Dimy. How many of the 149 businesses that you've supported during this period, what percentage of those, or how many of those have had significant growth and scaled significantly and are really ready for, like a Series A investment? They're past the feasibility and the proof of concept and the seed capital that are ready to take it to the next level.
Several of them. I could tell you at least a dozen or more. So that's not bad. I mean, when you consider within 7 years, I have at least 5 of them that are making $100,000 in revenue per month. Okay. And I also have a few of them, 2 of them are in Uganda specifically. You mentioned Dr. Lucy earlier, but I also have another Mandela Washington Fellow in Uganda in the healthcare sector, Phyllis Kuyamanda. She was mentioned, or she was featured in CNN's program Inside Africa as one of the dynamic women entrepreneurs in Africa, due to the device that she created, a hand scan, okay, that help scan pregnant women to, when they to see, how the baby is breathing, how the baby is growing, etc. It's a handheld device that can be used in remote areas of Africa. With her device, many lives have been saved. With her device, pregnant women in rural area in Uganda, could see their fetus breathing, could see the lives, could look. It's a device that you can take and connect to a smartphone, connect to a laptop. You don't need to have the internet. You don't need, provided you have a laptop with a charger that's charged, you connect that device and you can scan. I mean, I'd like for you to see that features. I mean, if you probably don't remember Phyllis, from Uganda, when she was with us, we knew she had something that was going to revolutionize healthcare.
Well, these are exciting.
Yeah,
stories, but I think, Demy, that you've had about 25 Mandela Fellows a year for 7 years, and the
except program, last year we had 24.
So the program brings over about 1,000 entrepreneurs a year from all over Sub-Saharan Africa, and they're going to multiple universities and colleges where they're doing entrepreneurial training. So you have one cohort of many. So there is hundreds of entrepreneurs that have come through the Mandela Fellows program. And you wonder about these impact funds. And there's a number of very wealthy billionaires in different parts of Africa. Maybe some international funds could collaborate with some of the in-country people and co-create a fund that can help people around Africa, because it's, at some level you hear the exploitation of people and African resources. The Chinese come in, they mine diamonds, gold, metals, they take them back to China. Then when they're done, the environment has been scarred. They don't really help with building sustainable infrastructure and helping the local community. So there's a lot of external countries coming in and just taking. And at the end of the day, when it's gone, the African people are still there. And the corruption in some of the countries and the governments doesn't help this. But despite all that, the people are being creative and entrepreneurial and finding ways to solve their problems. So it's a great thing. So as part of the Fellows program, you have students also, I think, that get involved with helping the entrepreneurs while they're here and maybe following up on developing business plans. Can you tell us how the students at Iowa get engaged with supporting these entrepreneurs as well?
Certainly, and that's the beauty of our Mandela Washington Fellowship Program. We provide international business opportunities to our students through this program. I mean, do you remember when you were in college? Did you have an opportunity to work with companies that are based thousands of miles away from you?
Absolutely not. back in 1980,
Yeah.
when I graduated from Iowa,
Yes.
there was no such thing.
Well, this is what Iowa students, specifically TP students, are doing right now. And they've been doing this for over 6 years. We have a business consulting class. An online version of that course is reserved for our TP students, our business students, to work with Mandela Washington Fellow companies that are based in Sub-Saharan Africa. So the students are learning to be international business consultant in the real world, working with real companies.
Well, I think that's exciting. When you think of Iowa, we're a rural agricultural state. We have lots of row crops, corn, soybeans, and we have some big companies. We have the John Deeres of the world and the Rockwell Collinses, and some big international companies. But by and large, we're kind of landlocked in one of those flyover states.
Yeah,
This opportunity to get involved with entrepreneurs in 49, 50 different countries in Africa gives students exposure that they're not going to get if they only had multinational, international companies in Iowa.
Exactly. So not only they are getting the business experience, basically working on marketing plans, social media strategy, entry strategy, growth plan, etc. They are doing these kind of things for the Mandela Washington Fellow companies. Yeah. At the same time, they are also learning how to cultivate a global mindset. They are also acquiring the cross-cultural skills that are very important to succeed in this world. I always mention the stats. As you know me, I always say 96% of the world consumers reside outside the United States. 2/3 of the world purchasing power is in foreign countries. So if you say that you are a business student in this day and age, and you do not provide yourself with the cross-cultural skills, you do not take advantage of platforms offered to you where you can cultivate that global mindset, how are you going to call yourself a competitive student to jobs that are coming for you when you graduate?
You're not.
How are you going to be able to compete with the European students that already speak several languages, that have already traveled to several countries in the world, including the most difficult places in Africa, to understand their cultures, etc., etc.? How are you going to compete with the Asian students that know more of what's going on in the United States than you know of what's going on in Asia?
No, they really can't, Dimy, and that's a good point. And when you think about building international businesses, I built medical device companies that we built distribution in over 90 countries, and understanding geopolitical risk, cultural activities. It doesn't matter if it's Kenya or China or India. The framework in the process of how you look at a foreign market and how you understand that their buying decisions may be different, their needs may be different, and being able to access those market needs and then adjust your product service offering accordingly is critical. So it doesn't matter if it's an entrepreneur in Kenya or a multinational company, the concepts are the same. And this experiential learning is got to be key, because if they're not getting their hands dirty and getting out there and playing with it and trying to understand these challenges and help them solve the problems, it's just reading in the textbook just doesn't do it.
That's exactly right.
So I think it's a great addition to the program? How many students do you have working on entrepreneurial international business certificates? And
well, I mean, we also have the international business certificates, and right now we have about 150, 160 students enrolled in the international business certificate, and but through the international business consulting course, the students don't have to be part of the international business certificate to take this course. So we've had over 350 students, taking this course, working with Mandela Washington Fellows. So it's
is it only undergraduates?
Undergrads, undergrads, yeah. So, but it's great experience for them. Really. I mean, when I was in undergrad, I was an international business major. I never had this experience. I mean, I had an internship with a company locally, but I never had the experience to really work, in a transnational, cross-cultural projects. Never.
So you've got an MS from Georgetown and basically international affairs.
Yeah.
What did you learn there, and how did that help you, and how do you see what you're offering at Iowa in terms of the student experience? Kind of, is there any overlap? And
definitely. I mean, my focus at Georgetown was mainly on international development and also international business diplomacy. So what does that mean? International development, it's really the type of work that I'm doing with the Mandela Washington Fellows. How you use business concepts, business approach to help developing countries, grow, to help developing countries move themselves from developing to emerging and even, developed economies. So that's really what my approach, my focus was at Georgetown. And international business diplomacy, it's really help government of developing countries prepare themselves or put their house in order so they can attract foreign direct investments into their countries, so they can build public-private partnerships, so they can kind of like have or put in their countries conditions that facilitate private investments. Either those private investments are from locally grown companies, like the type of things the Mandela Washington Fellows are doing, or private investments from abroad. So that's really, how do you use diplomacy to get business to grow? Okay, so that's and this is exactly what I'm doing at the University of Iowa.
So if I recall, you're actually bringing some maybe public health officials from institutions in Africa to Iowa City to help train them and develop them. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in that collaboration?
Definitely. And one of the things that we're going to start doing, or I've been doing it, but to a lesser extent, but we want to grow that, is what we call the executive type training for the community in Africa. And we've been doing that with Kenya for about 3-4 years now, with vice chancellors of universities, where we've been bringing them to Iowa so they learn about innovation, entrepreneurship, and university leadership, so they can bring that to their universities in Kenya. But recently, I've met with a senior official in Kenya who want to bring leaders in healthcare to the same program, but really focus on healthcare leadership, on leadership in time of crisis, leadership change, innovation, growth, how to manage and stimulate growth within healthcare organizations and things like that. It's again, a way, for me, I always look at things in international business diplomacy.
Mhm.
How can I help those government officials, prepare themselves, think in a business way to build public-private sector partnership, to bring growth within their organizations in a business way. That's really how I see it. And then also, it also has the international processes. How do you bring the processes that we have here that we know that have brought us success? How do we share those processes with our peers, in Sub-Saharan Africa, so they can really, or get them move
So
forward.
you're part of your brand with the International Institute is working with African universities to teach their chancellors what's possible in terms of entrepreneurship, as well as working with the College of Public Health and looking at how they might take some of the things we have developed in the States back to Africa. And I'm assuming with the pandemic and the way things have changed
exactly
in the last couple of years that
and we don't call that teach them, we call that share knowledge, because we also going to learn from them.
Got it.
Okay, we really call that knowledge sharing, and because those people, they are very smart people. They've done a lot in their countries, but they want to come here to share knowledge, to learn about our processes, and to tell us how they are doing things on their sides. It's really that's the aspect. That's the way I see it, really.
So do you help them eventually develop their version of a venture school where they're actually doing more entrepreneurial training, or
no, on that front, they're not going to be doing entrepreneurial training for the senior level officials. What they're going to do is how to create an entrepreneurship ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem within their organizations, where people can bring forward ideas, bring forward innovations, and feel welcome, and find an ecosystem to incubate those ideas, to push forward with those innovations. Create an ecosystem that can promote more public-private sector partnership. Okay.
Are they a potential partner in helping with these impact funds to bring?
They could be, because you were talking about how can we put together impact funds that can be a partnership between investors here in the United States or in other developed countries and people in Africa. So I think these people, they would be it would be a good group with whom we could have such conversations. And I agree with you, definitely.
I think it helps to have, if you had an impact fund where you had some people on the ground in Africa that understand business. When you talk about private equity, or when they get bigger PE firms, they have some active oversight and governance. And I imagine some people wonder about how do you have government or governance in Africa when they're on a different continent, and how do you make sure that funds are invested wisely and are held accountable for results and all of that. So there's some virtual aspects, but technology should help facilitate those kind of things.
Definitely. I mean, and technology, and also the trust issues too. That's the way you start building trust. When you get the local involved, you get to know them better. You get to know them on a personal basis. That's how you build trust, and you start to understand the reality on the ground. Get the local involved at an early stage. That's what I always tell people that want to get involved in any international affairs or any international business ventures. So
you've, Amy, the dean at the University of Iowa, has been very supportive, and you've been recently put as a direct report to Amy. And so you've been getting a lot more support from the University of Iowa for your initiatives. What kind of support do you need in the next 5 years? And I mean, maybe start with, what's your vision for 5 to 10 years out? What would you like to see the International Institute become and be? And then, what kind of support do you need to get there?
Well, the goal is for the Institute for International Business is to really create an ecosystem at the College of Business where students, when we talk about student success, we see cross-cultural skills, we see global mindset. When we see faculty, we also see global mindsets, staff, global mindsets. We want to create that ecosystem where we have the platform for each group, students, faculty, and staff, to cultivate that global mindset. That's one. Secondly, we want also the college, to be able to provide the trainings that we talked about, these executive style training that can bring global thinkers, global business leaders to our campus to share knowledge with us, to learn some of our cutting edge approaches to be involved, to approaches to be doing business in this modern age. And then we also learn with them, learn from them on their processes, on how they are also getting things done. Then the third thing, to partner with international universities in Sub-Saharan Africa and in Europe as well, to conduct research on the serious issues that our world is facing with respects to leadership change, leadership in time of crisis, technology, how we use technology to impact the world. We talked about blockchain. We talked about artificial intelligence. We talked about, cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
What role a business school can play in providing evidence-based approaches to technological solutions to the challenges that we are facing right now, to impact the world. Those are the partnerships that we want to bring.
Let's talk about the technology evolution and the convergence of these exponential technologies as it relates to academic research, because these technologies are changing so fast that it almost researchers have, I would think, become more entrepreneurial, where they could do evidence-based research that's going to come 12 to 18 months out. They'll start getting feedback, because if it takes 3 to 5 years, the technology will already have morphed into something else and it'll be obsolete. So I think part of the university research mindset is it needs to be fast. And universities have to be accredited in the coursework, but so many of these technologies are moving so fast. It's I guess that's another question, is what are universities going to do to get into the modern age with exponential change and be able to keep up with it and still be relevant? Because really what you're talking about is here today. And I always like to talk about Elon Musk. He looks at these mega trends. He looks 10 years out, then he says, what's it going to be in 10 years? Then he brings it back. Well, Tesla is not a car company. It's artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
It's sensors, it's
Exactly.
sensors, machine learning, it's robotics. So how do we create a research mode in business entrepreneurship that can keep pace with this transformative change and still be relevant. So do you have any thoughts on that, Dimy?
The way I see it, I see academia and business sector partnership, where the academics of the world work closely with the innovative companies and do evidence-based research for them. Because the companies, what's going to happen, they're not going to wait 18 to 2 years, 18 months, 18 to 44 to 24 months, to get the results, to get the evidence-based approach that they need. They are going to push the academics to really find more efficient ways to come up with their evidence-based approach. I see the more partnership you see between academia and business sectors to do evidence-based research, to come up with evidence-based solutions, the shorter time it will take. I mean, efficiently, not cutting corners, the shorter time it will take for the academics to publish their research. That's the way I see it. I mean, I don't know about you, if you would agree with me. I mean, because I think there is not enough partnership between the business sectors and the academics on those researches.
Well, I'll take the liberty to maybe make a small translational gap here. So when you talk about evidence-based research, I think if academics can actually help businesses apply these new technologies to real world applications. So to me, it's the application of technologies and new applications of technologies that I struggle a little bit with evidence-based. But when you look at healthcare, for example, today they're working on technologies to print organs, whether it's a heart, a kidney, a liver, CRISPR and gene editing, eliminating disease by going in and actually editing your DNA to fix the faulty coding. And there is so many technologies that are going to totally revolutionize healthcare in the next 7 to 10 years that are going to eliminate disease versus new pharmaceuticals. So it's coming fast. So my nephew just started med school at the University of Iowa, and I was challenging him to start thinking about where's medicine going to be in 10 years. Then where do you want to play and what piece do you want to be part of? Because it's not going to look the same. No. Doctors are going to have artificial intelligence and machine learning that can process millions and millions or billions of bits of information and give them diagnosis that they could never process on their own. So there's going to be new tools that are going to change the way medicine is delivered. And this applies to everything, with decentralized finance, access to 24/7 banking where you don't have, it's not 9 to 5 where you have to wait for a banker to be on the phone. You look at mortgage title insurance, well, that'll be a blockchain where you won't have to get a title opinion updated to buy a real estate transaction. So you mentioned the Internet of Things. Well, within the next decade, there'll be 1 trillion sensors out there. Everything will be connected. So how does this change how we play, live, and work? And, it's very exciting, but I think academics will evolve quickly. And there'll be certain institutions and universities that get into this, real-time application of new technologies and research, because a 10-year study may no longer be relevant by the time they get it done.
And again, what I've been saying is we're going to see the reality of this change when we start having more partnership between the academia and the business sector. Stronger partnership will push that change. This is where I see it, to be honest with you. And I think there is not that the partnership is not strong enough right now.
Well, I think the opportunity for collaboration and partnership is going to be with a lot of the entrepreneurs, a lot of the young innovators.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Out that I've got this problem, and how do we solve this piece of technology? The gap, and it may not exist today, but in 3 years it may exist. So
yes.
How do we take this new supercomputing capacity, and how do we solve this problem? When you think about 10x, how do we drive out 10 times the cost? And I just did a LinkedIn YouTube the other day. It was titled, "We've Always Done It This Way." And it was kind of a wake-up call to businesses that, you have the opportunity to redefine and disrupt your business in the industry. But if you don't, someone's going to come in with new technology, and they're going to disrupt you. And if they're at 10x the cost, and they're providing better service and better quality 24/7, we all know what happened to Kodak.
That's right.
There's going to be a lot of household brands and names that we've all known that are going to go away because they were not open to looking at how do we disrupt our own business model with the next generation. And businesses have an S-curve, and they get on a steep growth curve, then it starts to mature and taper, and they need to know where they are in their S-curve and what the new disruptive technology is going to be, or the new model, and they can redefine themselves. But that's a whole thing about leadership and change management.
That's
correct. Exponential change moves so fast compared to linear change, and that's an issue, I think, in society. And maybe we should talk about that. You deal with a lot of students and the rate of change in society, and they talk about quiet quitting and all of these other issues with attracting and maintaining employees. And young people, they've got to be at some level stressed out about what's in it for me in this gig economy, where do I fit, and how am I going to play? So do you have any insights on that, Dimy?
Well, what I've been seeing in young people, and because I have a 17-year-old myself who is getting ready to start college in the next year, they want to own projects. They want you to work with you to design a project, and then you let them run the show. They are not the type of people that you're going to ask to be in one place every day from 8 to 5 or 7 to 4, whatever, your time things is. They want to have the project. They work on it at their own time. If they want to start working on it at 10 p.m. and finish at 4 in the morning, that's what they want to do. If they want to start working on it early morning, take a break in the middle of the day and come back to it at night, that's what they want to do. And at the end of the day, they want you to evaluate them on their results, not on the time that they come and show up to the office and you see them there in the office, you think they are doing things. No. You design, you just give them, this is the project you're going to be working on. You are in charge of that project. You run the show. Maybe once a week, we have checking meetings to check on the progress. But at the end of the day, we want results. We have a timeline. We have a deadline. We want results. That's really the way they want to work. And this is what I've seen when they don't have project. And I have lots of students, interns that have worked with me. Currently have 2 students intern. The way to get the best out of them is give them projects. Don't just have them come and making copies, answering the phone, and things. They will just come, sit at the computer, stay on social media, on their phone, staring at the computer. Give them projects. And you say, this is your project. You have this time that it's due. check in with me on a regular basis once a week and let them run the show.
So they want to be empowered.
They want to be empowered.
They want to be
Yes.
held accountable.
Exactly.
They
don't want task. They want project.
Yeah. So I'm assuming a lot of them like purpose too. They want to do something that's going to make an impact and
That's
make the world
exactly
a better place.
right. They want to start something from ground zero and then build it, and then they see the impact. Like if you give them a project on something that they know, for instance, I would give my intern a project, say, okay, I want you, this is the project we're going to work on. We need to get an impact report from each of the Mandela Washington Fellows that we've had. And then that impact report, I'm going to use it to talk to our donors, to talk to a donor of the Institute for International Business. And I'm going to send that impact report to them. They're going to analyze it, and then they're going to give me 1 or 2 hours to meet with them, to talk with them, etc. And your report will be able to help me raise X amount of, they love it. These are the type of projects they want to have, but they don't want tasks. They want project.
Okay. So I'm thinking about entrepreneurial leadership in organizations. So if you're starting a business and you have 4 or 5 key people that are engineering, software, systems integration, and all of this, how do you think about the organization of the future that's where they're really co-creating, they're co-empowered, and it's not a functional command and control organization? How do you think about that in the future of organizations and how that may shift from what we've historically had with these functional or matrix organizations where you've got a CEO, then have you thought about that, how that is going to change?
Well, the organizational structure is going to be moving more on a collaborative way, more so than it was back in early 2000 when people used to have, cubicles, open office space where we could. It's going to be even more so. It's going to be a hybrid type of collaboration, in person and virtual type of collaboration. And the CEO will share projects with the staff, and the CEO will really be doing knowledge sharing more so than being seen way up there. That's really how I see it, because the generation of workers, the generation of professionals that coming up right now, that's what they are asking. They're asking for collaborative projects where they see everybody roll up their sleeves and producing results. That's really how I see it.
No, I think you're right. So in kind of moving towards closure, what do you see your legacy when you're done with all of this? You started up as a child in Haiti. You started out doing service, helping people internationally when you're 14, 15 years old. You're still doing service work, helping entrepreneurs in Africa define and create businesses. So what's your legacy when all is said and done? What would you like to see, Dimy?
Well, I started with the word community. I really want to see a community, a world where entrepreneurs can achieve their dream. They can have their ventures, their initiative, create a better future for themselves, where they can earn a living, based on their ventures, but also create a better world around them, where they provide opportunities to their people, their world, and basically their community.
That's awesome. I think there's many people that have an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And there is plenty of resources and plenty of capital in the world for great ideas with a management team that knows where they want to go and how to make it happen. So, part of this is a shift of abundance to help entrepreneurs in Sub-Saharan Africa. And I want to thank you personally, Dimy, for all the hard work that you put in and everything you do. And, it's great what you're doing. And I get to watch these young companies grow. If our guests want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
You can, I am on LinkedIn. Just if you Google my name, Dimy, Dimy Doresca, Doresca, you'll find my LinkedIn profile. And also, if you go on the University of Iowa website, you'll find, just put my name in the search button, you'll find my page where my email is there. So yeah, it's easy to track me down.
Well, thank you very much, Dimy. This has been very insightful and a fun conversation. So thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on the AMPx Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure not to miss future episodes, and please rate the show wherever you get your podcast. Thanks to our awesome production team, Lindsay Soderberg, social and digital marketing, Taylor Higgins, video production, and Seth Nielsen, marketing. See you next time.